Heard that the Cardinals met in the Sistine Chapel and they had deliberations and did not let hope that was expected. Tonight was the opportunity to take a kind of read of the room to see who the leading contenders were. No matter what you've been hearing on television and media about who is the front runner, that question is only tonight in the Sistine Chapel. Now the Cardinals know who the front runners are that they are talking. And what we have to do, of course, in this time is to be in prayer for them, and the Holy Spirit to guide them. I don't know how many of you were able to watch the some of the proceedings today. It was a very, very moving experience. There was a mass this morning with the Cardinals uncelebrating the Mass, St. Peter's Basilica. This is a special Mass for the election of the new Pope. And they processed in red vestments, red symbolizing the Holy Spirit whom they were invoking. And then after the Mass, they recessed out. They went to the Domus Sancta, which is a relatively new residence that was behind St. Peter's Basilica. It's a residence that is not used for conclaves. It's used for some priests who live there, and also for visitors, special people who have been invited to Rome to participate in various things that you get to see at Casa Santa. But all of the permanent residents have been evicted from their rooms during the conclave. And so all these priests who usually live there have had to go to other residences around their home. Once they were there, they had some free time, and then they got on buses and went around to the Sistine Chapel, processed into the Sistine Chapel, and there they each individually took a vow with their right hand on the Gospel, praying saying would keep secret the deliberations that would go on in conclave, and that took a good deal of it. And then finally, they asked everyone who would tell them to leave the Sistine Chapel. That's the liturgical master of ceremonies. Went to the doors of the Sistine Chapel and said, "Extra omnes, all people leave." Or if you were to translate the Latin into Brooklyn, "Y'all get out of here." And everyone then left, and the doors were closed. There are actually a few people still in the Sistine Chapel with the Cardinals, assistants, perhaps some of the firm Cardinals would have some assistance there. But they took the ballot, which they, by the way, have to do. They took the ballot tonight, and then the ballots burned in the stove. And I must say, unlike the time, 8 years ago, when I was also here in Rome observing, the smoke was very, very black, pouring out. This makes it a little clearer what's going on. Let me explain to you what I'm doing here in Rome. There are a number of friends who are here. You've seen Raymond O'Royal, perhaps EWTN, Father Roger Landry, Father Jerry Murray, Father Raymond D'Souza, my colleague at the Acton Institute, Dr. Sam Gray, the director of the Acton Institute's Rome office, de Avila, and Father Zulsdorf, who I just, as I was sitting in the text message, giving his local phone number. And the purpose of people like us being here has been a very intentional effort to offer the media positive and informed Catholic commentary on the events. For many years, you have watched a lot of commentary on church events, coming from dissenting people who don't believe in the church's teaching or who want in one way or another to weaken the church's teaching. Groups of people like myself and these other colleagues that I mentioned, and many more, have decided that we come and deploy ourselves and make contacts with a variety of media sources. Tomorrow morning I'm going to be on Reuters television. Tomorrow evening the BBC wants me to stand by on the various boats, so it'll be fumata, which is the smoke, that's the Italian for smoke, comes down. Then they want me there to comment on it. If we have a poll, they're going to want me to make some comments on that. And so the basic idea is simply to evangelize. That's fact matters. We want to let people know what the church's teaching is, what the church's traditions. And it's really a wonderful pastoral role. I had dinner last evening. Last evening was Sunday, I guess. No, right? On Sunday evening, had dinner with these people, and we had shared information, contacts, and things like that. I'm staying in the Casa. It's called the Domus Australia. It is a pilgrim's residence house in Rome. Beautiful place that was built under the direction of Cardinal L, who was in conclave. And I spent a good bit of time both at Mass and meals with Cardinal Bell and some of the staff from Australia. It's been a very interesting experience all of this. Seeing Rome again is always a beautiful experience, but when you're here at a time like this, when we don't have when we say the Mass, when we say the Mass at Sacred Heart, you notice that the last, how long has it been, a week or two, week and a half now, we've not used the name of people in that part of the Mass where we pray for the bishop and the pope. So we just pray for the name, and we pray for Walter, our bishop. Well, when you're in Rome and you say a Mass, your pope and your bishop are the same person. So that whole section of the Mass is left out for this time of the Sacred Monday, time where the seat is empty. No doubt the seat will be filled, I think, rather soon. First, have a pope, possibly tomorrow, Thursday. I don't know if it will go back next Friday, just like me, all of those cardinals have to get back to the diocese to celebrate fully with their people. So the atmosphere here is very different than other places. First of all, it's been very rainy. In fact, earlier today, when I was walking down the street, there was a hailstorm. It was like pebbles coming down. It's really funny. See, I was walking with an umbrella down the street. It's funny to see all the Italian immediately, even though that umbrella's dug in to the store, to the shops on the boulevard, and they were afraid to get hit the hail. And it was remarkable. So there's been a lot of rain here, even tonight in the square. If you want the news broadcasts on it, you see people with umbrellas. So the atmosphere here is prayer. A lot of people supporting the church, a lot of people approaching. Not a great number of people who are to the faithful, but there are nonetheless people who are doing exactly what we're doing, being here to witness to the meeting, very different kinds of person. So I have to say, it's hard not to compare this conclave with one 8 years ago. The 1 week ago, of course, the funeral. Hope, and not only in hope, the funeral, one of the greatest men of its century. At that event, almost all of Poland seemed in Rome. Streets were packed with visitors to the body that was lying in state, and after that, the deliberations that you'd see going on began going on. But now, there's not as much media, there are not as many pilgrims, and yet what they're doing, it's a very unusual circumstance, like the new, when the former pope is still alive. So it's an intriguing and historic opportunity in a very different way than the last one. I feel enormously privileged to be here, to be so close to the church, and the focus of the Catholic is on the group of 115 men who are praying earnestly, directed by the Holy Spirit. But I've said enough now. What I'd like to do is open it up for questions, and I want to facilitate that. And thank you very much for all the work you've done to set up this broadcast for me to be with my people in the way that we're able to do this here, and to be able to do with the children tomorrow morning during their school day. It's such a joy, and I can't tell you the thrill it is to be here and speak to you right now. So Michael, let's do the facility the Q&A.
We talked about is having the people come up here in the line and ask the questions from right here. His father will hear you better from right about here, be able to see your face really well. So if anyone wants to come up and ask a question, one right up here.
Or if you're chicken, Michael can ask it for you.
Okay.
Father Dennis Silver.
Oh, Dennis, I thought you were Norm. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. Are you Statler or Bill?
I'm sorry?
Are you Statler or Bill? Did you ever watch the Muppets?
Again, we'll talk about this at the point. My question, Father, is there has been talk here in the States through the media about the possibility of the American Cardinal becoming the Pope. And I guess I'd ask you to put your handicapping hat on and tell us if you think that's possible, and in either case, give us some names that you think possibly will become Pope.
Okay, that's a good question, and it's one that's being asked. Let me begin by saying this. I think that there is a greater chance of an American becoming Pope in this election than there has ever been before in the history of the Catholic Church. Having said that, well, before I go into that, let me say that the two likely candidates appear to be Cardinal Timothy Dolan from New York and Cardinal Sean O'Malley from Boston. And I say that for two different reasons. There are two different sets of reasons that would favor Cardinal Dolan and Cardinal O'Malley. Cardinal O'Malley, because he's a Franciscan, he speaks 5 languages fluently. He has demonstrated his capacity to resolve problems related to clergy sex abuse in 2 dioceses. Won't say resolve it because there are people still scarred from the experience, but nonetheless get to the bottom of what problems were and to rectify those. The Italians, of course, they have the largest voting bloc, cardinals. Love Franciscans. So the idea of Pope Francis I coming on balcony later this week is an exciting notion for them. And I must say, too, the thing that surprises me when I speak with regular Italians, cab drivers are always a good barometer of what the sentiment of people are. When I've spoken to cab drivers, they're very open to the idea of an American, and that surprises me. It's previously I would have thought they would have been very reluctant about that. Cardinal Roland was another person. It's another one of the cardinals who's installed. And the reason for his popularity was just the enormity of his joy and boisterous personality, the way he develops with a sincerity. I think he communicates the gospel very well in the way he comes across. So those are the Americans most spoken. Having said all that, I still think that it's unlikely that an American pope will reach us in this particular level. The reason usually given for the reluctance cardinals to choose an American is that the United States is not only a world superpower, but now the world superpower with the demise of the Soviet Union. And the thought is that it would be imprudent to place both the spiritual leadership of the world and the governmental leadership in the world on nation. At least that's the standard that they think. I think that would be a factor, but not as big a factor as it used to be. I think that what takes it away from the is that there are 2 or 3 other cardinals who have in their background such great competencies, especially for the needs of the churches that presently exist, that the College of Cardinals may in fact turn to them. In this regard, I'm speaking about Scola from Milan, Cardinal, that's Angelo Scola, Roman Guillet from Quebec, Canada, and now there's more and more talk about Cardinal Schurter from Portugal, which is an enormous Catholic country and represents Latin America, where more Catholics live than any other continent in the world. So, with regard to Scola and Guillet, you have men who are fluent in many languages, who have experience, case of Cardinal Guillet, with the Roman Curia, which you've been here. This is the bureaucracy that helps the Pope get work done. And there has to be, the determination is that there needs to be a reform of the Roman Curia, that is the governance of the church in some work. And the thought is that Guillet might be in a position to do that. Cardinal Guillet is a quiet man. I had lunch with him well, I guess it was in June, this Rome, or maybe it was September, October when I was in Rome. And he's a very gentle and intelligent man. He's not a dynamic personality, but he's solidly orthodox, did incredible things in Canada, which was very hostile to the church. Let me just stay there, I'll come to this question in a moment. And then Cardinal Angelo Scola is a well-known theologian and Italian, and he might stand a chance of being able to reform the Roman Curia precisely. He's not part of it. So he's the line of benefit. So that would be something like handicapping for whatever it's worth. But as you listen, if you came in early and saw those old clips from the last conflict, you remember when BBC reporter asked me if I thought Ratzinger would be elected. I said, well, maybe not, even though he's the front runner, maybe not. Maybe a kind of General Ratzinger would be elected, of course. That's a monumental historical error that is well documented. Yes? Is that wrong? Yes?
What does it look like there, if you want to see them?
Well, let me get out of the way. That's kind of what it looks like now. It's a wonderful place. I hope you'll come here someday. It's a great place to visit, a great place to eat. But as I said earlier, there's a lot of rain, and when it rains in Rome, it really rains. This is that kind of the year. Somebody told me that conclave has not been held during Lent since I think 1826, something like that. So it's interesting that this should happen Lent. We have a little cold at times in Rome. The buildings are old, and many of them are astoundingly beautiful. If you've been watching the proceedings, you saw the Sistine Chapel, which is one of the most magnificent art pieces in Rome. And it's really not a piece of art, it's a chapel where Mass is said, and what the Cardinals are doing there right now is, great testimony to our church's history. Hello.
Is this talk about the reform of the Curia, is this the American peoples, Americans who are the progressives, whatever, who are interested in reforming something, changing something so that it fits their vision, or is the Curia really like worse than it's been in 2,000 years? Is there really a need for reform of the Curia?
Yes, no, I think there is a need for the reform of the Curia. I think it's been over-dramatized in the media. I think you have in Rome, in the Roman Curia, you have people who are very ambitious, very prideful, who are climbers, just like they have at other businesses. But the fact of the matter is you also have people who are holy and generous, who are working here incredibly hard to disseminate the church's teaching, to keep things going. The problem is that you have to make, the way I put it in an article that isn't published yet, is that you don't want to come at this thing with a meat cleaver. You want to come at it with a scalpel, because you've got people, you have some of the best people in the church here. But you also have some very lazy and ambitious people. And then add to that, you've got two major factors that go against efficiency, working against the church. The first is that it's in Italy. And the second is the bureaucracy. And when you put those two things together, it's enough. And, there's a lot of pettiness, a lot of cronyism, kind of like, no, don't like that. I have a brother-in-law who sells those. I'll get you a better price. That kind of mentality, or getting people's relatives and friends jobs that putting people in the back door so they can buy a grocery store, or the gas station.
To the right, behind.
Are you hearing that as well?
Yes.
The gas station are much cheaper because they don't have Italian taxes. And the whole purpose for those things to be cheaper was to, in a way, give an subsidy to people who are working for the church. So I think some of that has to be cleaned up. You asked if it is an American thing. I think Americans are particularly sensitive to waste and inefficiency, but I think there are a lot of other people who feel similarly about this. Yes?
Thanks for doing this.
Well, you know, they had, I think it was a total of 20-something sessions in these things they called liturgical congregations. These were communities cardinals talk about precisely what you're saying. Now, they were typically characterized by the press office of the Holy See. After each session, the press office would give very brief, and I think not sufficient descriptions of what the cardinals spoke about. But if I were to list several of the things they spoke about, they did speak about the reform of the Roman Curia. They did speak about the need for the new evangelization, which you've heard me preach about a lot. And now you know where I plagiarize my lines. They did speak about the attentiveness to the scandals related to sex abuse. They have also talked about the importance of the use of effective means of communication. So those are some of the things they're looking for. How do we present the best image of the church to the world? And I think those will be the things weighing on their minds as they go through these ballots tomorrow and maybe next year.
Well, Father, I have a question. I've heard this
Yes.
said by a lot of different media sources about how beneficial it would be for us to have an Asian vote, or an African vote, or an American vote, or what nationality, race have you. In the end of the day, how beneficial would it actually be for us to have a vote on one of these so-called races that people want so much?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And let me say that I have also heard that in the media. The fact of the matter is, I don't think that is the way the Cardinals are approaching this at all. They're not thinking in terms of ethnicity. They are thinking in terms of Catholicity. They are thinking in terms of competency. And if you have an African who has the kind of competency that's necessary, then they'll elect an African. Or if it's an American or an Asian, that's what they want, is somebody who can do the job. So the most important thing is to have, what could be worse than electing a pope from Africa who wasn't a good pope? How would people feel about that? You know, it would be an insult to Africa. What you want is people who are competent, a man who is competent, who is careful, who is holy, who knows the faith and can articulate. And I don't, everybody has their point of view on this. A lot of the media kind of insinuate into their questions and their discussion. But if you talk to the Cardinals themselves are not interested. At least I'm the majority interested in the things that I've already enumerated. So, I mean, it would be fun for Americans to have an American pope for a while, but I think it's much more important to have a Catholic pope than an American pope. And I bet we get one too.
Anybody else questions?
Hello.
Just looking for a thought. I was reading the Rock and Shady today, and I know they're in recovery for conflict. They were saying something that they're hearing things about Cardinal Rankin. I don't know very much about. His name is coming up. What would you say about him on handicap? Is this wishful thinking?
Well, this may sound like a pun, but I think Cardinal Rankin could be a dark horse. Those of you who don't know why that's a pun, you just need to see a picture of Cardinal Rankin. He is a very wise and competent man. Of course, one of the great things about him, in addition to his theological learning and his prayerfulness, is his love of liturgy. So you have a continuation of the priority that Pope Benedict has placed on the reform of the liturgy. So, Rankin right sequence of events take place, could be a contender. But what happened tonight, basically, was people who, that is tonight, the cardinals who were voting, saw for themselves who have a little box of votes. And what will happen now is they will speak with each other to see if they can come to various consensus, the traits that they're looking for. If a cardinal went tonight, let's say 40 votes out of the 115, that would be a very strong indication. In the next round of ballot, he could gain another 10 or 15 votes. But another cardinal got 30 votes, would also gain 10 or 15 or 20 votes. And so you go through these rounds of voting in order to achieve some kind of consensus. That's the process that's been used now. So Ranjit could be one of those. He worked in Rome a lot. He could be one of those who will, as I say, a dark horse team that could come from Mahatma. If the let's call it the chemistry is right. Yes, Aaron.
Good morning, Father.
Good evening. It's midnight.
Well, that's what I said this morning. I figured it's after midnight there by now. Okay, anyways, I got here a little bit late because the previous question she asked about a certain cardinal. I couldn't understand his name and where he is, what.
Ranjit?
He's from Africa?
Yeah.
Sri Lanka. Okay. Well, my question is, one of the things I've heard, like on Holy Family Radio from different Catholic talk shows, one of the things that they love so much about Pope Benedict XVI, he still is Pope until time.
No, it's not. That's not right. No, we are in the same time. Right.
What they were saying, what they felt was kind of the requirements or a good qualification for the future pope would be someone like Benedict, who speaks many languages, English, So like say there was a cardinal from Sri Lanka, he spoke 3, 4, 5 different languages. That's why Benedict would go around the world speaking almost every major language. So they can better communicate when they know they're speaking their language.
Well, I think it's important that folk be able to speak several languages. Obviously, one of the important things would be for folk to be able to speak Italian, because that's the language of the churches that operates on a day-to-day basis. He should also have some competency in Latin. I would think that most all the cardinals do. Most all the cardinals speak Italian, to some extent directly. Cardinal Ranjit, I'm not sure of the number of languages he speaks, but I suspect, I know that he speaks English, I know that he speaks Italian, and he speaks his native language and probably several other dialects. I don't know if he speaks German or French, which is very possible if you've done theological studies, or Spanish would be another important language, I'm not sure. This is, by the way, I see a lot of the children in the back. This is why it's very important. While you're young, you have the ability to absorb a sponge. Languages will come to you so much easier than us old people. So I encourage you to learn and become fluent in one or two other languages. It's really important we be immersed in other languages. Read read books, even if you don't get everything you read right away, get children's books. I mean, really keep and read them in another language, and then listen to music in another language. And seek out friends who speak the language, because I think, not that you're going to become Pope someday, but somebody once said that if you learn another language, you gain another life. And I'll tell you, I know the truth of that, being able to speak Italian. It's like a whole other world, stuff. You know, I don't just read the local newspaper in Grand Rapids. I read Italian newspapers, I read Italian novels, I listen to Italian music. So to learn Spanish, learn the other languages, Chinese, that's not an easy one either. I think it puts you in good stead for your life and business and just your cultural enrichment. So thank you, Larry. You mean what would be the personality or the person?
No, a person. If you were able to
Okay.
ask
Who got this vote?
yes.
Well, that's safe to answer because I don't have a vote. I mean, they've already locked the door, so I can't even get in. But I would vote for Cardinal Bell. I say Cardinal Bell because I know him, trust him. I think he is a passionate man, an intelligent man, one who would advance many things, and also I think he has the capacity to remove the Roman Curia. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he came out being, if not the Pope, then the Secretary of State. But let me say this about Cardinal Silvano. Perhaps you, because you're Milanese, you would know better than the high official from your family. But he's a very intelligent man. He's a philosopher. Now, there's a name for philosophers, because sometimes they appear remote and cold and not terribly charismatic. So he is a professor. He has strong managerial talents. I think he is in charge, or was in charge of two of Italy's most important dioceses outside of Rome. Patriarch Venice, he is the Archbishop of Milan. And in addition to that, he was the head of the what is it called? The School on Family, the University on the Family here in Rome. So he has a lot of good managerial experiences. He's outside of the Roman Curia. I know the Roman Curia is not thrilled with him. He was also involved in a very energetic movement called Unione Liberazione. It's an enthusiastic movement of families in Italy they're interested in work, politics, and all kinds of things. So I think you have a lot of talents in them. I don't think he'd be as interesting a personality as Pope John Paul II. But he'd be, at least going into it, more energetic than Pope II. Prego, grazie. Hello?
I just am curious about something. They take a vote, and before, if they have not reached a two-thirds majority for someone, the votes are then burned, correct?
And not exactly. Tomorrow, the votes, if they have not elected a pope, there are 2 votes tomorrow morning, 2 votes tomorrow evening. If they do not elect a pope in the first morning session, they hold the ballots until the second morning session, and then burn the 2 sets of ballots together. So in the morning, there may be no storm.
Are votes made to conclave so that they know who has the most votes at that particular time, so they are aware who's in the lead or not?
Oh yes, you mean the conclave?
Yes, the cardinals are voting at the time of the vote, at the time the vote is taken, and after the results are in, are they then told what the results of that is?
Yes. In fact, the counting is done in front of the entire College of Cardinals by 3 cardinals. One reads it, holds it up, hands it to another cardinal who reads it, out and confirms it, and hands it to the other one, and then they put it through a needle, and they put it on this needle, and they add all 115 ballots onto a needle. You know, like that popcorn for a Christmas tree, put a needle through it. They do that with all of these ballots, and then at the end of that session, if no pope has been elected, they hold it until the second session, morning or evening, and they burn all of them together. But yes, the cardinals know the final tally, and in fact have a tallying sheet that they can use in the sessions. But those are taken, burned. This moment.
One of the cardinals, if he were voted for, you could know before the final vote. In other words, that there's a very distinct possibility that I could be pope. In other words, he could be sitting there knowing that.
Oh yes.
So before
He would
he can possibly know.
Once they reach 77 ballots, that's 2/3 of the voting cardinals, 115 voting cardinals, all under 8. Once he got up to 77, he would know that he was elected pope. I would presume that they would continue the voting after that, so that all the cardinals would vote. Well, in fact, I don't have to think that, even as I say it, I realize that's the case. They would wait until all the cardinals have voted before he would be king. Before they would approach him and ask him to accept the nomination, and he would then accept it and give the name that he would be called by.
And I understand that he can turn it down too, if he wants to.
He can. He can.
But that would give him time, in other words, if the man knew that he was heading in that direction, it would give him time to decide whether he wants to.
That's right. You know, in fact, I would imagine, for me, and I had all these days to think about it. I knew that I couldn't be elected. I was going into that conclave. I would think you'd know the time you walked there. But there's such an emphasis on obedience that at that point you probably want to say yes, just out of obedience. By the way, you know probably that they go outside, theoretically can go outside the convent and choose any Catholic male who is in the church. Usually then that person would have name freeze. Single Catholic male outreach chosen as Pope.
Thank you for your insight into that. I was very curious, so, I have my own perspective that I'm hoping to do. Thank you.
Who are you voting for? You like O'Malley? Yeah. Right. Yes. A lot of Italians here agree with you. They love the idea of Franciscan. I didn't mention Cardinal Burke was another one. Yes. No, he's not supposed to. But unfortunately, it's kind of on the honor system because they're instructed to, in some way, disguise their handwriting so that no one, even the ones who are doing the tally, would know who's voted for whom. So that's just on your own, without yourself.
Forgive me for throwing this one at you, but I think I know you don't need to believe it, because since they were discovered for 400 years. But in the papal predictions of St. Malachi, it is listed as Pope Benedict was listed as the last pope he talks about. How do you see this affecting this momentous event going on right now? Anything going on about that at all?
No, there's certainly no talk about that here in Rome. The Malachi prophecies are very vague and ambiguous, and there are several good articles on reliable websites like NewAdvent.org that refute the whole craze with these prophecies. They're not just prophecies from St. Malachi, but other prophecies that are supposed to be going on. And anytime you have a major world event, you have people who talk about the end of the world. We just came through the Mayan count things that should have ended the world back in middle of December or early December. We had Y2K, you had a man predicting at the end of the world. A Catholic who is informed by history. By that I mean someone who really has studied the Church's history, never gets too carried away with a lot of these end-of-the-world prophecies that are quite marginal, don't have a broad consensus of theologians or the Church Fathers. Because we've seen it all, one time or another in the history of the Church. We've seen all of these kinds of things that go on. As I say, there are specific articles you can read on the prophecies of Malachi that can give you more specifics than I can think off the top of my head. But I would just caution you not to pay attention to them, not to let your soul be disturbed by them. Hey. Good. You're looking good. I just get a kick out of this technology. I think it's so wonderful.
My question is, have you seen Pope Benedict XVI Emeritus? Is he there? Have you seen him?
Oh yeah, he was buying some rosaries the other day down on the snowing. He was shopping in the grocery store. I'm just looking at the report. He's a Cristoforo, and his secretary was old Cardinal, who was it? Oh, I think he called the press office and said the Pope had rested well, and the former had rested well. In fact, there was a picture release, a feeding, I think it was ducks or something, on Crystal the dog. And then he's praying and just kind of unending. Interestingly enough, I know today when they announced the extra omelets when everybody had a 16 chapel, I noticed that his secretary was in that group. So I imagine informally a lot of guys are saying, how is Pope Benedict? And so I think when we get out of the conclave, we'll hear a little few more reports. And you know what I'm really looking forward to? The first photo of popes together, because we've never seen that.
Right.
It's going to be really.
That was what I wanted to ask you about how to do. Is there some any how it's done? These dogs, but we're still worried about this stuff.
Yeah, no, I was from the Cardinal. I was from the Cardinal Pell, and he said that in the last 6 months that Pope Benedict has been looking weaker and weaker, that it's been really quite dramatic. The other thing that will be interesting if we hear is that is if anybody voted for him in his first vote tonight.
Or again.
That would be another first. Sure.
Any other questions? I have one question while they're thinking about it. You've been back
Yes.
for a while, so what do you miss the most after being over there for 6 days?
I miss praying with you all. I miss seeing you, and really, if you ask me, the thing most is the Mass in our parish. We're so fortunate to have a beautiful church and a beautiful congregation of people. That's what I miss. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, did you say that again?
As a seamstress, I'm interested in the attire that you people wear.
Yes.
They don't make one size fits all. Do the men have the cardinals represented in the measurement?
That's a good question. That's a great question, and I have the answer to it. Cassets. That I should have asked. I went to get, don't anybody tell me this, but I went to the Pope's Tail and bought 2 zucchetti, the skull cap that the Pope's bishops wear. I bought 2 beautiful zucchetti for Bishop Curley. And they're lined with lambskin, so fake egg. So they have to make them. But I gave them the measurement, and I was in there, and this is the Pope's tail. So they had just removed the 3 cassocks that were in the window. Small, medium, and large cassocks. So I'm speaking with the Camarelli, who's been, this is the 4th generation of the Camarelli family, who have been tailors to the Pope. And so I got to ask him some questions about that. I didn't think to ask him what you just said. But what they do, interestingly enough, is they come up with their own list of lighting patterns. A lot of the cardinals go and get their robes, their cassocks, and you notice how all of them, that red is the same thing. So they go in there as cardinals and as bishops. So they have the measurements of all of the cardinals. So what they do is they group and try and estimate of 30 or 40 people who could be pope. And they make these 3 sets of estimates. And then, and here's what I didn't know until I spoke with Mr. Gampelli. He said they give this to the attendants in conclave of the cardinals who will fit this one, will fit the other one. And then there are a set of probably 10 sizes of that are available, and then there are other things the Pope will wear. So there's a whole set of estimates. If you're interested, I think the website to go to is newadvent.org. It's a series of headlines. Look for something about the New Testament. They have a clip that shows the tier. This is where the Pope will address. And the 3 caskets lined up with shoes and flints and shirts, so that he can pick out what he needs for the presentation on Malcolm. And he gets the blessing early for the city forward. I'll tell him. I'll give him a call now. Oh, I'm sorry, this himself isn't.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Father.
Father needs to go to bed.
And I'm going to talk to the kids tomorrow, huh?
Yay!
And before I go, I'll ask you all to stand, and I'll give you my blessing from Rome. Dominus vobiscum. Benedicat vos, opim, Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus. Good night. God bless. Thanks for coming.
Good night, Father.